Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee with Craner. I'm your host, Lyndon Crane, and today I'm here with
Eric Kukucka
from Aspen Dental. We're going to be talking about denturism, healthcare industry, and much, much more. Just a quick plug for Eric, who I'm sitting here with. If you don't know him, he's a denturist, vice president of clinical removable prosthetics and design technologies at Aspen Dental, the world's largest branded DSO, 1,100 plus locations across the United States, across the world.
47 states.
47 states. And I know you spend most of your time actually in the U.S. working.
Yeah, in Chicago. Yeah, about, let's call it 22 plus days. But Canada is still my home on the weekends. But yeah, most time spent in Chicago. And
yes.
Traveling to all the states, to our offices.
Absolutely. He's also one of 37 global Dr. Abe SEMCD. Or is that
so that means suction effective complete mandibular denture. Try to say that fast 5 times. Good luck. Really rigorous training program. Actually, was inducted in 2019 to be an instructor, but there's 42 of us around the world that have this certificate. So
wow.
It's rigorous training in Tokyo under a master denture and dentist that founded a technique to help a lot of denture patients have better fitting dentures. So.
Fantastic. And I know you do many speaking engagements and training with aspiring denturists and anyone in your field. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been lecturing on the podium since about 2012. I've published over 70 articles in different white papers, different journals. I've lectured at 50. I've been a keynote speaker at 50 different international and national congresses, co-authored 2 textbooks, and currently finishing a textbook right now on digital denture technology. So flown around the world many times. The record was 116,000 miles in 1 year.
Holy smokes.
Tokyo, Australia, Germany, Italy, you name it, I've been there on stage. So it's it's been interesting.
Yes, and what got you into this world of denturism?
Yeah, so really what got me into this, I always liked to work with my hands. I was financially driven and motivated at a very young age, and my previous mentor was a denturist, and I kind of followed into his footsteps. He showed me the road, and then from there I went out on my own, expanded my practice to then having 5 practices, starting a commercial lab, getting into digital technology. Mm-hmm. That's really what kind of got me started, and I actually hated it at first.
Okay.
I still remember being there and saying, I don't even know why I'm here. I like to work with my hands, but I don't like this. And I'm sure most people know my father, John Kukucka, Chef John at Essex Golf, a master, calls it the rule of 3. So you can do something really good once. Can you do it 3 times in a row? And he told me, you might hate this right now, but if you try to perfect this to a level of where you don't hate it, mm-hmm. Let's see where you get with it. So I started to practice the rule of 3 in everything that I did, and I would essentially learn to master it, let's say, very quickly.
And so following school, following your education, where did you end up going?
Yeah, so I went to work for a previous mentor, did that for a couple of years, and then went out on my own. So 2014 was when I went out on my own. And started the Denture Center in South Windsor. It was a little 800 square foot location. I bought it from Jim Bennett, also a mentor of mine, still practicing, just retired actually this year, I believe. I've been out of practice for a bit, but I think just retired. And we grew that to a 3,500 square foot facility on Lausanne Parkway. And then I bought his Leamington office, and then we expanded that into a brand new office at the Princess Center in Leamington, Ontario. And from there expanded to Waterloo, Fergus, Ontario, Kitchener. COVID happens. Hey, what do I do? And during the midst of the pandemic, I actually started an online education platform.
Wow.
Because I couldn't lecture, right? I wasn't out on the lecture circuit. Yeah. And I actually was able to generate a fairly significant amount of revenue through this program and this process. And what that grew into was making me even more internationally known. And I started a commercial lab where I was, during COVID, Canada was very, call it shut down and limited, but the United States was pretty wide open after a while. And so was really the rest of the world. So I started a commercial lab because with digital technology, I can accept scans
Yep.
data from anywhere in the world and manufacture a device and then ship it. So I grew a lab business quite substantially, over 200% in a matter of 6 months.
Holy smokes.
Closed down a few locations, Waterloo, Fergus, didn't want to go up to 401 anymore, COVID, things like that. And we're finding so much success locally and also in the commercial lab business. So steer the focus down that regard. It's kind of how I got started and where I got to there. And I'm sure your next question is probably, well, how'd you end up at Aspen Dental?
Yes.
Right? You got private practices. Why would you go to a dental support organization and go into corporate dentistry, right? And it was really me being on the international stages. My boss, Dr. Sandeep Rawal and Dr. Judge. Dr. Sandeep Rawal I've known for years. Him and I lectured together on the circuit. We've done a lot of different types of product testing and things over the years. And Aspen decided in 2019, hey, we're looking at digital. And this is the route we want to go for dentures. And Dr. Rawal was like, well, I got the best guy. Like, I've known this guy forever. So I started consulting for a few years and remote for the most part, because this was still kind of all still in the midst of COVID and shut down, where if you cross the border, you got to get your test done 24 hours, all the parameters that were around. And I very quickly fell in love with the organization and everything that it stood for and what we do as a DSO. What's important for people to know and understand about what we do at Aspen Dental, and in particular from a dental support organization, the largest branded DSO in the world, we provide opportunity for dentists to come into the organization right out of school. We hire anywhere between 500 and 700 new dentists a year.
Wow.
We train them, we educate them, we onboard them, we give them and enable them with all the tools and everything necessary to be extremely successful, all while providing them business. Think of it like true mentorship, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you have a lot of mentors in your life. I've had a lot of mentors in my life. One of them was just on your show.
Yep.
Many others in the community. Imagine having that at your disposal, coming out of school, graduating, not knowing anything about what you do, I think is one really important part about what we do as a DSO. But the other thing about what we do as an organization is we break down barriers. And what I mean by that is, if you think about private practice, which is where I come from, and I support it also, there's nothing against that whatsoever, because that's what makes the world go round. But there's still a high needs patient that's pushed dentistry off for 10 years. There's a patient out there that's pushed it off, and the minute it happens, and let's talk about the United States, right? They want to get in right now. They want to be seen today, not I can't see you for 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, 10 days, whatever it may be, limiting that access to care. And we are servicing those high need patients when they need us most. And that truly, Lyndon, we do hundreds of thousands of dentures a year. Mm-hmm. For me, I looked at, I'm going to come into an organization as a clinical lead and expert in technology and influencing these doctors. I'm helping hundreds of thousands, if not millions of patients a year get better dentistry through the mentorship, through the coaching, through the education. And that was people say, why did you leave? I left because this was the next phase of my life. Mm-hmm. That I did a great thing here. I was able to sell the practice to my best friend, who
awesome,
moved here from Toronto, Adam Mazuka, now the owner of the Denture Center, moved down here to become an associate 8 years ago. And to sell that and have him take that legacy, and now next chapter of my life, helping millions of patients. And, we have 2,500 doctors in our network be better and enable them what they do. So that's the story.
Do you see the wait times in Canada versus the U.S.? Do you see Canada becoming at a position where we're taking care of more patients like you are in the States?
I mean, the DSO space is in Canada as well. It exists. It's not as branded like a storefront is, like in the U.S. We have Aspen Dental. We have other competitive DSOs. But the DSO market, or the commercialization and corporate aspect of dentistry in Canada, is happening, and it is real. But I think it's a little bit of a different type of DSO and how we look at the consumer. In Canada, we are very healthcare driven, and we always want to do what matters. But I don't personally believe it's as commercialized and structured as it is in the United States. No different than healthcare, right? With private healthcare in the United States, right? And we have public healthcare here in Canada. And it's I wouldn't say it's in parallel with, but there's a lot of similarities to the culture and the ways in which that those two things work together cohesively between the two countries, let's say.
And now you've been at Aspen Dental for about 3 years now.
Yeah. So yeah, consulting for 2 years, and then it's been over a year full time
as
since
VP.
I've sold the practice. Yeah.
What's it been like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can see it in those watching, the passion that I have
100%,
for this organization, and it's been life changing, and it's better than anything I could ever expect. And you know, people say, "Well, what's next for you?" And quite honestly, and I'm not saying this because maybe my boss will watch this or not. Like, I want to retire here. Yeah. I want to live a legacy where we're doing millions of dentures a year, and we are known as a leader in tooth replacement today, but I want to be known as the best in the world at what we do for dentures, enabling doctors to be better at what they do, getting patients better access to care, better quality, better product. That's what excites me. That's how it's been, and I wouldn't change it for the world. It's the best decision I've ever made. Never thought I'd be doing this in a million years. Like, hey, Denture Center, I'm going to retire there and retire in the community.
Was that the original goal?
Yeah. I mean, the goal was actually to have like 50 practices and make my own like denture DSO type of thing. And then when I started getting into this lab business and digital and lecturing and publishing, and I'm like, maybe I don't want that. Maybe I don't need that. And this just, you know, everything happens for a reason, right? And you paved your path, and you have your opportunities, and you have the knowledge, and you have everything that you have, and things just happen. And things get put in front of you, and sometimes you make the right decisions, and sometimes you don't, and we learn from our mistakes. Make no mistake that this is not a mistake, what I made, and absolutely best decision I ever made.
And you're doing this fairly young. I imagine you started the Denture Center at a young age.
Yep. Let's see. Yeah, I was 24.
Holy smokes.
24, 25 when I founded the flagship location, we'll call it. Grand Maris and Dominion, 800 square feet, shared office space. Yep.
And for those they're just graduating denture school, they became a denturist. Perhaps they're looking to become involved in this industry, whether it's as a healthcare professional or as a denturist, or they want to be in your shoes. What is your advice to those young people?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think I'm going to expand on that. I think there's a denturist part, but I think even if you think about young entrepreneurs, if you think about anyone graduating business school, anyone graduating a nurse, whatever it may be, I think the number one piece of advice that I have for those out there, and I was blessed to have the mentorship of my father, people like Paul, people like Dan Orman, people like Fred Quinville, God rest his soul, a lot of my circle of friends that were able to mentor me along the way. And the one thing that I really learned was to be as humble as possible, learn from your mistakes, and ask questions, right? It doesn't matter what industry you're in. If you think you know everything, you know nothing. Surround yourself with those that know more than you. Be a sponge. Go to look at you're on town council, right? How old are you?
23.
Right.
Yeah.
What an amazing opportunity that you have. And you're learning from all those people. You're learning from those life experiences. And far too often, people feel that they're owed something or they deserve to have that. But when you go out there and you earn it and you learn it and you live it and you breathe it and you learn from your mistakes, that's what allows you to get to that next level. I'm still learning every single day, and I will continue to do that. And by the way, like, learning a corporate world and a corporate structure is very different than operating your own private practice.
Yes.
Sure, I have my accounting and I have all those things that I had to do to run a business, but not running a business line of 1,100 locations, of an enormous corporate dental support organization. So I had to humble myself and say, hey, I might be great clinically and I'm very well-rounded. I didn't know a lot of what I know now between strategy and corporate structure and how a lot of these things works. And that was a humbling moment for me. So I think that's like my take home is there's always something more to learn. And, my father said this is like not the rule of 3, but you're only as good as your next plate. My mentor said, you're only as good as your next denture, right? Okay, that one was really good, but if you had a chance to do it again, what would you do? Well, I would have done that, then do it next time.
Yeah.
And then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And real estate, you're only as good as your next deal, right? all those things, if you challenge yourself every time, because people say, well, you're only as good as your last denture. No, you're only as good as your next. Because what did you learn from the last that you're going to do in the next one and the next one and the next one?
So it sounds like, I mean, I see it on your social media. You're obviously very, very passionate about this industry. For you, what drives you to do the work that you're doing? Is it having an impact on somebody's life, providing them obviously a great visual appearance, motivating others? Like what drives you?
Yeah. So initially, way back when I started, money was a driving factor.
Yep.
And I fell in love with, you hit the nail on the head, but there's a multitude of factors, but it's definitely seeing that patient smile and changing their life. And I won't get crazy scientific down, but 2014, there was a paper published that said the top 10 things denture wearers told us about their dentures. And in summary, basically 50% of people surveyed in this paper were not happy. Not happy. There's 35 million people in the United States that are missing all their teeth, 120 million missing more than one tooth. So some form of what we call denturism, okay? So think of that, what I says, 50% of people not happy. So we do hundreds of thousands of dentures, close to 1 million.
Yeah.
Right? And imagine, we're not 50%, but imagine if we were, and I can influence 50% of that 50%. Now we only have 25% of people are not happy. And then you keep digging at that next and next and next and next. That's the gratification. The gratification for me as well is when a doctor says, hey, I only did 2 dentures in school. I hate dentures. I don't even know what to do. And I say, Doc, you come to my class, I'm going to teach you. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, man, I learned so much. I learned more from you in 8 hours than I did in dental school.
Yeah.
And having me as their support to walk them through and coach them through and say, man, you're not going to believe how much I changed this patient's life. Or, hey, remember that case we talked about? It was amazing. I made her happy. That's what drives me. That's what motivated me really in practice, was challenging myself, being better. These patients coming in, their teeth hurt or their dentures aren't good. How do you, that is life-changing. That is quality of life. Because imagine, if you lost your teeth tomorrow,
yeah,
you're not going to smile. Can't eat. You're embarrassed. You're in pain. How does that affect your overall systemic health, right? Because our mouth is the gateway to our systemic health, right?
Yeah.
Imagine what that's like. Imagine then I fit you with a set of dentures that don't fit good. You're in pain. You can't talk. You can't eat. Well, what's that like? Right? And people don't always associate teeth the same way they do a different body part. If I told you tomorrow I'm going to cut your hand off, you're like, oh my God, you're like, my teeth, I could wear a mask.
The left one, please.
The left one, all right, right? Cut your left hand off. It's actually very much the same, because when you're a dentalist, it is a form of a handicap, when you think about it. So that is, it's giving someone back their quality of life and improving the quality of delivery of care that we do every single day. That's what drives me. That's what motivates me in private practice, and that's what motivates me even more today.
Fantastic. I think that's a great way to wrap up this conversation. I know you're a very busy individual out in Chicago, and I really appreciate you making the time to join me down in Windsor, Essex, where you grew up and where you started.
It all started here.
And for those they're looking to learn more, I see you on Instagram all the time. Is that a great way to?
Instagram's probably the most live. LinkedIn as well. I mean, Instagram's where you see kind of the day-to-day or the week-to-week happening in Chicago at our amazing facility and training center at the Aspen Group. LinkedIn as well, a lot of business updates and things like that. So definitely you could follow me on those social channels and see everything that we're doing at Aspen Dental and changing the landscape and everything that we do in dentistry.
It's exciting. Thank you so much, Eric. If you want to watch the full episode over again, coffeewithcrainer.com. Appreciate you being here.